Good evening, Final Fantasy Randomizer fans. Welcome to the brackets of the SG Live 2020 Final Fantasy Randomizer Tournament. My name is Jat. I'm joined in the booth here by Cheesenator. How you doing? Tonight for the late night special, Cheesenator.
Oh, I'm great. I'm all tucked in. I got evening lighting. I've got my pajamas on. I'm cozy.
Yeah. So for those of you in chat who are wondering what's going on, Super Mario 3, we were just quickly unofficially hosting it. So if you want to continue watching that, it is on SpeedGaming 3. So if you want to watch the end of that race, there you go. Meanwhile, this Final Fantasy Randomizer match will be starting in just 1 minute. So we, as I said, are in the round of 16. We are cozied up. Get your blanket out, get your hot chocolate, get your potential adult beverage of choice, as we are in for a barn burner between two excellent runners. Thunderclaude finishing first overall in his group. Meanwhile, LordFizzlebeef came a close second, losing a very tight race to DVS, who also made the brackets. Quickly, Cheesenator, do you want to go over the draft before we get this started?
LordFizzlebeef led off with a Black Mage, Thunder answered with 2 Black Belts, and Fizzlebeef rounded it out with another Black Mage. So it is a very black party, it's a very offense-heavy party. We're never going to be reviving anyone, and we're going to be using only heal potions to heal. So there are going to be some challenges, but once this party hits the late game, it does lots of damage.
Yeah, so this is something where, you don't have to check white magic shops at all. There is no reason. Cure 4, life, all that stuff out the window. Wall, out the window. But lots of fast, lots of tempers. This is going to be speed and power, which really is kind of what LordFizzlebeef is known for.
Yeah, I think this comp, even though LordFizzlebeef is more of a fighter player than a black belt player, this comp does feel like it's kind of the essence of how they just want to bowl forward.
Yeah. I mean, I said it's a little bit more of a LordFizzlebeef comp, but Thunder is the ultimate jack of all trades. This is definitely not something that caught him off guard. And in many ways, with him being the person to select 2 black belts, you had to expect something like that. Like, when you start black mage into black belt, you have to be expecting either another black mage, a white mage, or a red mage as the third pick. And he probably played through all of those scenarios in his mind. I mean, I guess something like a thief is possible as well, but at that point, you're in a little bit of very, very difficult early games. And if someone wanted to avoid that, this is fairly standard.
So quick, let's talk about the bracket flags. They're not much different than the pod flags. Hopefully you've been watching those. The differences between the two boss stats now have their HP going up to 200% instead of 150, and enemy stats, just their stats, go up to 200% instead of 150. The floor has been dropped out on the weapon curses. They can go down to -6 instead of -3. The canoe is loose instead of the canal, and Astos is shuffled.
Yeah, so a couple, Shuffle Astos, a fan favorite. It's a little bit frustrating for competitive players at times. However, you'll just notice that they'll try and save before they take a couple of those, encounters that before you don't usually save before. Like, for example, when you go into Elfland with the herb, a lot of the time you would just go straight to the prince, just in case you get the key and need a little bit more money. But in this case, you want to make sure you go to Elfland to save. So we're going to be seeing some small adjustments like that. But I think the most notable change is the guaranteed loose canoe. What impact is that going to have compared to the guaranteed loose canal?
Well, of course, it will depend on what kind of key items show up early on, but it usually means that you're kind of coin flipping between Marsh and Earth. But here we are! Our Black Mages only have Zap and Ice. Practically speaking, I couldn't imagine buying any of the other 2 spells.
Zap is a serviceable spell to get us through the first 2 kind of bosses in the game, in terms of Garland and the pirates, but not going to be a very consistent way to kill the rest of the enemies, albeit very, very, very little in this game resists time, so it will work in most scenarios with enough casts.
And imps are not safe. Thunder, I've had enough of this. I'm going straight for the pirates. I don't blame him. Frankly, a couple of zappers is probably better suited to fight that than to make this trip up to Garland and do Sarah and the King.
And the floor of the Blursing coming out, making an impact already. I mean, Ice Sword -5, not a big deal, but those -5, -4 weapons, not nice to see. But honestly, with this party, weapons not going to be a big deal.
Nobody can equip anything besides a couple of daggers and some nunchucks.
So we are getting simultaneous boss fights as Zap finishes off the pirates. Meanwhile, LordFizzlebeef zapping Garland into the 4th dimension. And we have a very, very quick canal, which I would say is not the best news in the world, as that's going to open up, canoe and Marsh, for example, or canoe and Earth and other nasty things.
Yep. Also, Thunder would have been in trouble there if Bicky had been Astos, because Zap probably would not have landed. LordFizzlebeef has 2 shots at Astos after this fight, so everyone pray, I guess. Well, as soon as he gets through Sarah here.
Okay, hold your breath. Please, Sarah, do not be Astos. Whew, okay, we're good. And look at that level 2 magic.
I was looking at the Fizzlebeef screen. What was level 2 magic?
Fast and Nuke at level 2, probably the 2 most important spells for this comp.
That's fantastic to see. Of course, it does mean that you'll have to budget your nukes out a little bit in TOFR, but since you've got the 2 black mages, you just need 2 fasts to come out from each of them, roughly speaking, carrying onwards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so fast, a little bit of information on what that does. We say it's really important, but to be honest, you're not going to see anyone casting it for the whole early game. So, why is it powerful? Well, at the end of the game, what it does is it doubles your number of hits. It doesn't work infinitely, it can only really work once. But going from 10 hits on a black belt to 20 hits is absolutely massive and really increases your Topher safety, your Temple of Fiends Revisited safety, which is the final dungeon in this game. So you're going to not be seeing that much early, but you'll be seeing lots of it late. Meanwhile, Nuke, the ultimate early game spell. It will clear most packs. It is the most powerful AoE non-elemental spell in the game. It is the jack of all trades, except for maybe killing those final bosses. So, Nuke and Fast being in the same level, not ideal, but it's really, really going to make sure that these runners have a lot of casts of the spells that they really care about.
Fizzlebeef loaded up on gold by selling his swords and was able to buy the shop item, which is the crystal today, took it up to Matoya and got a tail, which this is probably the least tail required comp possible in all of Final Fantasy 1. Probably not promoting, but we'll take the experience boost. And he also got a nice 33k gold reimbursement, so he can go off and continue to shop, maybe buy some expensive gold bracelets or pro rings.
I think the only reason that you would promote with this comp is if, for example, if Fast was in the warp slot, so that's slot 3 in at level 5, then I think that's a pretty easy promote. But with Nuke and Fast already available, I think it's very, very unlikely that we'll be paying a visit to Bahamut. And maybe in that case, we'll dodge Astos entirely.
Yeah. So a scenario with this magic that we already have could be Temper in the same slot you just mentioned. Yeah. Because it really depends. If one of these runners wants to go, not 42, but like at 32, so something that's not quite as much of a slam dunk into Topher, then the more offensive buffs you have, the better.
Absolutely. So something to keep an eye on is whether or not we're going to be seeing these runners dan off a black belt. So can you go a little bit into why they might do that and, why it's of particular benefit for this party?
Yeah, this party, the 2 black belts, frankly, are redundant. You want to funnel more experience into just one of them because the higher the level of the black belt, they get so many latent stat bonuses, and including their MDef, their HP, their hit percent, their critical rate, all these other things keep going up with levels, so you'll probably see them. The colloquial term in this community is Dan, but that is let one of the 2 characters die and it'll stay dead and it won't take experience from the other party members.
And this is just because, as you were saying, black belts basically have exponential scaling, which means 132 black belt is in many cases much, much, much more powerful than 2 level 16 black belts. So of course experience isn't linear like that, but for the point of the exercise, it's going to be much more valuable to have 1 very high level black belt as opposed to 2 middle level black belts.
And while Fizzlebeef tries to open up a portal to another dimension in the ocean, Thunderclaude is getting a little bit ahead on exploration here, heading over to the Dwarf Cave to check these 2 free chests. One of them could have our canoe? Nope. So, with no key, no, we had Canal at Bicky, yeah. So Marsh still is only 10 chests? 10 chests without the key. So it's kind of better to go Earth, but we'll see. There could be an item on the Sages, the Circle of Sages, that actually gives us even more chests to open.
Yeah, so for those of you who like to watch A Link to the Past Randomizer and want ped seeds, your ped seed right now is something ridiculous in Earth Cave that leads to something like TNT to Herb to Crown to Key to Marshlocked. That's what you're looking for. So if you wish our runners harm on this, wonderful Friday night, then that is what you're looking for.
Or key back to Rod in Caneria Locked, and then the canoe is in the bottom of Earth, like some kind of required double dip of Earth.
Yeah. There we go. So we're not saying anything, but we're just giving you a little bit idea if you want to channel some bad thoughts onto our runners. But meanwhile, we're taking a look at level 3 magic. Nothing too special standing out. We got cabins, we got pures, we got heals. We're able to get some levels with this nuke, so a fairly standard early game. But you already see on LordFizzlebeef's side here that one of the black belts is checking the ground for traps for the foreseeable future.
This is pretty big here. Thunder was debating whether it was worth spending this 23k on a gold bracelet +5 for his party. He's going to pick it up. The alternative to spend his money was like a couple of 4k Ice 3s here in the shop, but that gold bracelet's going to do a lot more sooner. He doesn't have Ice 3 charges yet, but gold bracelet +5 is 34 absorb. That's very strong blessing.
Mm-hmm. So we've already talked a little bit about how the blessing is different, and of course, for those of you who might not be as familiar with it, blessing and cursing basically just modifies the statistics. The most notable one for armor is the chest piece armor, as it will provide 2 additional defense as opposed to 1 additional defense. So that gold bracelet has 10 more defense than it would in the vanilla game, which is already quite good. But of course, curses work in the opposite direction. Weapons, the most important is 2 bonus damage as well as additional crit rate. So basically, pluses are good, negatives are bad, and everything else is just math, and math is not for Twitch commentators.
Fizzle routed in that quick dwarf check for the 2 chests, decided he did not want a wood helmet and 3k cash, so he reset and he's on his way out of the Inner Sea, while Thunderclaude has already made his way onto Crescent Lake, and we'll be seeing the circled sages shortly. Ooh, Cap +3, that's 4 absorb. Silver -5, just avert your eyes.
Yep, that is not quite, but pretty close to just wearing cloth armor, so we don't want anything to do with that. This is an interesting decision to go to the sages first. The canoe will not be here. But, you can definitely find something else, and the one thing that could be very important that's here is the key or the rod, and I think that's what's leading both these runners to do this first.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty smart check. This game doesn't have many encounters on the ocean, and in particular, this flag set has only 2 encounters every 256 tiles that you move across the ocean. It's very few, so you can get back and forth across the world on a boat pretty quickly, just using like a couple of tents or cabins.
Okay, yeah, rock solid 84. I'm not sure if this is actually true, but yeah, technically if this was a dud location, it could potentially be the canoe, but the chances of that are like exceptionally rare. But I think the primary play here is to look for key or rod, especially, actually both of those. Those would both be huge pickups here.
Yeah, the randomizer does place all the incentive items first, so just the way seeds roll, like many more of them tend to have the incentive items front loaded to early access, and then the items that don't have an impact on progression pushed late. So a dud location here at the sages would be pretty surprising.
So as you can see, our runners basically neck and neck. Very little between them at this point. And I think that's pretty expected. These seeds tend to be fairly linear. Not all the time, but in this case it is quite so. The one defining big gamble someone could take would be to go to Marsh before Earth, but that would surprise me a little bit, but maybe not so much with them already being in the Inner Sea.
Yeah, I mean, I think these 2 runners are very close in their ability, and each of them knows that. Like, either of them could take the race on any given day. So I don't think either of them feels the need to gamble right off the bat and go for a place that is like statistically lower chance. They're just going to try and play a solid early game, get their levels, because you're not going to be able to dive anything like sub 10 with this party, given the low HP values.
Mm-hmm. So we did just have a pickup there, which was the Ruby on Thunderclaude's side. And of course, the Ruby opens up a number of things. One, it opens up 2 additional incentive locations, which again, could be the rod or the key, which would be of particular importance. The other thing is it actually does open up 4 chests, or 3 additional chests. And those chests could have the canoe. So the Ruby is a nice pickup here.
Yeah, Ruby's fantastic. In the randomizer, the Titan's tunnel has been reconfigured such that the Titan blocks the exit and entrance from both sides and blocks the 4 chests altogether. And additionally, Sarda is just normally an incentive NPC. We add in an incentive location in the Titan's Trove, so Ruby is a nice 2-for-1.
Mm-hmm. And let's see if our Temper in the warp slot is true. Nope, just Saber. So that's not going to be important, but Lock also available here, which as these scalings bump up a little bit, Lock is a spell that you want to have access to, and I haven't seen if it's been available. I'll quickly check our fantastic tracker tonight's Chadbird's notes to see if we have had a Lock spell, Lock 2 in the earlier levels.
So you say Saber is not important, but if there's a Cat Claw +6, I mean, there's at least somebody in chat who I think might like to have a go at it with the Ninja Black Mage.
Unfortunately, the Cat Claw rolled -5 in this particular seed, so...
Oh no!
The Cat Claw, so funnily enough, there was a bug, well, while our runners kind of are not looking at anything particularly new, there was a bug in the vanilla game where crit rates were based off the weapon number. So the Cat Claw, because it was quite a late numbered weapon, actually had an incredibly high crit rate, which made it quite powerful in the vanilla game due to the bug state. Unfortunately, or fortunately for most things, that bug is fixed in the randomizer, so the Cat Claw not quite as powerful as it once was.
Alright, let's see what we got here in our Titan's Tunnel. A little bit of cash, a little bit more cash, a Light Axe +5, that's useful, and TNT. So we're going to be going back to dwarves, friends. But that could be, again, key, could be rod. Those are the two major incentive items we're looking for in terms of just access to more possible checks. Key is significantly better because those checks don't involve crawling dungeons.
Yeah, and once again, not surprising that people are just walking back and forth. I do also want to highlight this is sometimes overstated, especially for new runners, they tend to overvalue it, but there is also 5% bonus per key item. So turning in these key items will just make getting those levels just a little bit faster. Well, I think way more critically is just really clarifying as much information as possible before they have to make decisions on where they want to go next.
Indeed. Also, that Light Axe +5, nobody's going to be able to equip it, but it does cast harm 2, and oh, it looks like Astus has rolled into Sarda.
Yeah, this is not a big issue with Nuke, of course, but it is a nice little boost to EXP, and nice to get this out of the way now. So, yeah, you see Thunderclaude giving a little, yeah, no, that's not a problem. I got Nuke. I can go house up or save at Melon, yeah. So...
Sarda's a pretty safe spot to have that encounter at. Worse, if it's like the robot in the waterfall or something, maybe you'll lose some levels, some experience, and have to walk all the way back in if Astos throws his own like nuke out at you. Alright, so it looks like all things told, Fizzlebeef is just some exploration a bit behind, maybe menuing here and there, a little bit of pathing here and there has allowed Thunderclaude to eke out a few early edges and get ahead by maybe minute and a half of walking so far. They haven't substantially looked at more or less of the world, either of them.
We are about to see on Thundercloude's side the next little bit of progression, and it is the slab. So that is a complete and utter blank for right now. Of course, the slab will be turnable in once we get the floater, but the floater, A, needs to be found, and B, is guaranteed to require the canoe in order for us to get into the air. So nothing important now except for 5% bonus EXP.
Yeah. So now from that position, because of the extended open progression, you could just stay right there, go directly south and say, I'm doing Marsh for 10 chests, but he went back to the boat. He's going to go to Earth for, God, I don't know, 12 chests? 13 chests? Mm-hmm. And LordFizzlebeef just caught the bad end of a bane from some ogres and green ogres.
Yeah, so LordFizzlebeef falling, about maybe a minute behind, which is actually fairly substantial considering there's been no major changes. It's just been a little bit more encounter manipulation, a little bit worse encounter luck, and just, whatever decisions have been made. So, notable, but no major changes, and that's pretty much the story so far. I think there's going to be the first kind of interesting decisions coming up once they potentially start diving Earth or Marsh. And also, with Black Belts, one of the big concepts here is a grind. And in Fighter Seeds, lower scalings, maybe if you took part in the Spring Tournament or watched the Spring Tournament, you saw a lot of Fighter Seeds, you saw a lot of walking grinds, but with Black Belts, generally speaking, you're going to be looking for a stationary grind somewhere. And that stationary grind is generally going to be either a Spike Tile, which is a guaranteed encounter tile, which there's 3 of to check on this first floor of Earth, which Thunderclaude is about to do, or an overworld grind, which is generally speaking going to be up near Mirage Tower in the upper right quadrant of the map. So keep your eyes peeled to see if there's any good grinds. And speaking of a potentially good grind later, that was Gershark's Eyes.
Yeah, if those things rolled lowish, not only can they be taken down quickly by the sweepers, but if you've got the gold +5 and a pro ring, and maybe the ribbon rolls up or something, and you can kind of make a tanky black belt, you could actually solo that tile.
So it's both an option for an early game grind, something that we usually consider like get your safe dive grinds, which are getting to the 15s, mid-teens, or even for your black belt grind, as you said. So keep an eye on that, and I wouldn't be surprised if Thunderclaude goes and takes a second look at that. I was a little surprised he didn't just throw a nuke out just to see what happened.
Yeah, I guess he's just massively prioritizing the canoe information right now. It seems to be more important than anything else he can be doing. Also, I don't know if he has any houses in stock, though with all the gold that we've had in this seed so far, I would be shocked if neither of them bought a single house. Alright, Fizzle's going straight to Earth, so not wasting time on the extra bits of the fetch quest chains means he could actually be caught right up here.
And yeah, as we know, that's not going to hurt him at all. Fizzle, though, is obviously prioritizing taking a quick look at these grind tiles here. And yeah, Thunderclaude is going to take a look at these Gershark Big Eyes to see what their HP total is.
Yeah, right now, we're probably trying to do what Thunder did, is like let one of the black belts die, then get the remaining party members up, to the mid-teens maybe on a tile like this. Hopefully not losing anybody, because if you lose anybody, you have to reset right away. Like, you need your characters alive. There is no life magic. There is no white magic at all.
Ooh. Oh, that is some tempting tile business right there. Did you see the thumbs up that Thunderclaude gave to the screen?
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was so low. And Fizzlebeef's about to get the good news as well.
Yeah, so we're going to take this a few times, and someone in chat, Token Streamer, thanks for helping out here, mentioning that Thunderclaude does indeed have a house, which makes this grind even more tempting. Like, to take to that mid-teen, so that way you can still dive down to the vampire with nukes in hand.
Alright, so Fizzlebeef has information. Maybe he wants to save before staking a tent. Yeah, there we go. Like, stake a tent outside before staking a tent inside on that grind tile. But no, he's actually going to do check all the chests and then make a decision after that, while Thunder is proceeding down to the second floor.
Yeah, so our runner's still just holding hands for the most part here.
And we don't have warp. I haven't seen warp unless it was at level 3.
No, we do not yet have any. Well, exit of course not being possible, and warp not yet found. So.
Yeah, so this is going to be, unless this is rod, and then there's a canoe like down underneath, or something similar to that kind of configuration. We will have to come back here, and we'll have to walk out what we get in here.
We have seen, so far, nothing too brutal on scripts, but we have not been in Earth very long, so...
So I kind of like Fizzle's approach here. He's taking this this fight once each time he's near it, as he clears out the chests that are close by. Or maybe I'm wrong, maybe he's actually just going to stand here. he's healing up his characters with heal pots.
Yeah, he's taking this grind, so something that is a little bit more of a minor detail that I want to point out here is that there's certain tiles on this overworld, or on this dungeon map, that don't actually have a chance to cause an encounter, and they don't increase how close you are to your next encounter. And one of those tiles is the ones along the bottom of an enclosed room, so not the general map, but those enclosed rooms. And that's why he's taking this specific tile, because he can walk up and down and make sure he never ever hits another encounter other than this while he takes this. So this is some nice play by LordFizzlebeef, and just these small things that these veteran runners do that aren't always apparent to a newer runner or a viewer.
Paunch is down, now there's just Slap left, so that's probably the configuration that Fizzlebeef wanted. Slap is up to 16. That's honestly a really nice mark to be at for a black belt at 20 minutes into the game. George has Bane, and that was what got Fizzlebeef on the overworld earlier. Thunderclaude had just took a wipe to that, so presumably he didn't reset, didn't power cycle, and just is going to go in and try and find some different encounters on his second time through.
Yeah, so LordFizzlebeef healthing up and going back to the grind. So even at that kind of mid-levels, he knows that the Gur-Ogres have Bane and is probably trying to get a little bit more magic defense to avoid that. On the other hand, Thunderclaude going right back down, that was something also nasty. I did not catch which of those wolves cast it, but that looked like an AoE sweeper.
Wow, so Earth is both not friendly and possibly required, but I only say possibly because, Marsh is still a thing. Now, Marsh is also full of wolves, but at least it wouldn't have the green ogres.
I want to point out that the more dangerous Earth is, the more likely that Fizzle's play to grind first is going to pay off. And Fizzlebeef also has 3 houses, or maybe 2 now, but that is really, really important because that means he can take these grinds, come out, get his nuke charges back, and then go back in multiple times while still having the resources to make a deep Earth dive. Versus, I believe Thunderclaude only had a single house. So, this is that preparation paying off quite a bit later, but that could play to Lord Fizzlebeef's favor.
Yeah, and you see Thunder's reaction there to getting surprised by this pack of Spectre and Geists. Thankfully, they don't have what appears to be any scripts or any bad touches, so it's time lost, but it's not a dangerous fight. He's chucking out that light axe to see if he can sweep them while the Black Mages try to run.
Okay, and our fantastic tracker tonight, Chadbert, pointing out in chat that it was the werewolves with, maybe he'll say what exactly it was. I thought I might have saw Thunder, but I didn't see. I just saw a spell cast and everything died. Okay, it was Crack. Yeah. Pretty lethal in the early game.
Yeah, so now we've actually seen 2 instant kills coming out of the enemy pool that are also in the late game boss pool. There's a Crack from Chaos, and then there's a couple of Banes from Tiamat, I believe. That usually in the late game, that's like your calculus of, I need a ribbon, or I need wall, or I need a really, really high level black belt so that you can resist those things. And it takes a lot. Like, these black mages are never going to get out from under a Crack or a Bane unless they have a ribbon, and the black belt needs to be up in the 40s. It's quite those. The light warriors are not very well advantaged against insta kill spells in this game.
Yeah, for some reason light warriors at low levels tend to have as much magic defense as imps, so not very well equipped. Meanwhile, Thunderclaude is checking what we like to call in the community TFC 3, that frickin' chest 3. It is a lot of steps for just one chest, so you're not going to enjoy going to that. But meanwhile, Fizzle continuing to munch on these sharks. This is very low HP for this tile. Often the problem with this tile is that one of them will roll a bunch of HP, or one of them will roll a script or something dangerous. But in this case, they both rolled relatively low HP and don't seem to do anything dangerous, and that's just fantastic. You can just sit here.
I mean, and there's still the chance, like, Thunderclaude's got to go in for this chest, right? He's got to potentially pull out a canoe if it's even here, and if the key item is a fetch quest, he's got to walk it out, right? If it's something that is a dud, you can reset and just say forget Earth, let's go Marsh. But if this is the what haven't we seen, Herb? If this is Herb, for example, he's going to be like, well, I need to know what that is, and he could wipe walking it out. Speaking of wiping, Fizzlebeef not safe from Bane at 22.
Yep, and he is going to go back down, and that it was kind of ironic you were just talking about not being safe from walking it out, as both Thunderclaude and Lord Fizzlebeef wipe. But I will say, although this grind is a commitment, I'd like the commitment towards the grind rather than the commitment towards trying to dive down just to check some chests, because the walkout is much shorter and the long-term effect of it is much higher. He still is going to dive down, but diving down is going to be much safer over that lot longer set of steps compared to just doing the grind right now. So I think Lord Fizzlebeef's a little bit more slow and cautious approach will pay off most likely here.
Yeah, so Fizzlebeef, actually, he's got enough momentum now to where he can... Wait a minute. Oh, he wiped... Oh, he had housed... He wiped midway through the grind. I see, okay.
Yeah. He wiped in the middle of his second grind after housing.
Wow, that's unlucky. Yeah, so, okay, he's back down below the 20s, but the trajectory he was on, you could have seen him actually just snowballing this into a, black belt in its 30s that's very unlikely to die to those things, and also going to make most of the enemies in the cave run away. That's the really big one, is once you get to, 35-ish or whatever, those wolves are all running away, and the ogres are probably running away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Thunderclaude realizing that he's gotten himself into a big fight here, but not too unhappy, just has to burn a bunch of nukes for it, going to get some levels. But of course, if he wipes at any point between now and the time he gets out of here, all this whole fight's going to be lost, so has to cross his fingers. But one thing I like on both runner sides, equipped with plenty of heal pots, knowing that there's no healing available from this particular party.
Yep, and the new feature of buy quantity, letting you buy 99 heal pots at once, is so good for a party like this. If only you could use heal pots to max, we just gotta... Ooh, look at that rod in Earth. So we're gonna keep going, and there are no more green ogres on the next floor. There are werewolves that can appear in the formation with the Giant and the Grimps.
So I will point out, although I hate to say it, I think the rod is actually a bad sign for Thunderclaude, because it means there's going to be even more walking potentially. That being said, that does mean Lich is the way out, and that is probably safer, so maybe it's a good thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, we're never going to see another Green Ogre, and we just might see werewolves in small numbers in some of the formations on this floor. But of course, you know, maybe there are trolls, and trolls have something bad down here. Maybe mummies or earths or scum. There's a number of things we haven't seen yet. But there's our loose canoe in the bottom of Earth. So all of this was not for naught. We don't have to go to Marsh Cave this seed.
So Thunderclaude is going to be our first runner to pick up that loose canoe, but I don't think LordFizzlebeef is going to be far behind him. And he will have those extra levels. So, you know, once again, still just a very close race between our two runners. But LordFizzlebeef going in for a third grind. He's going above 20. He's going to go he's just going to go. He's just going to say, you know what, I'm going to take most of my levels right now.
Yeah, well, if you think about it, we got a big chunk of fetch questy kind of items early, so we've already got about half of the key items in the game to boost our experience, so he's not missing out on much of that. And everyone who is a veteran of this game knows that the sooner you grind your black belt, the more the benefits pay off and time saved the rest of the seed. And if it prevents even one wipe through Earth, that's 3 minutes you've just bought back.
Absolutely. Yeah, because we've seen Thunderclaude wipe twice in this Earth dungeon, and those did both cost him time. Meanwhile, if LordFizzlebeef hadn't wiped on his unfortunate walkout from the grind, that could be a nice edge for LordFizzlebeef. I'd be interested to see, though, if Thunderclaude is going to just go do the grind as soon as he kills Lich, because that's definitely a decision.
Speaking of Lich is fighting back. We've got dicey HP on all our characters here, but thankfully Lich did a physical attack on Thunderclaude's black belt, so he was able to get that nuke out. But a Blaze or anything like that would have just totally wiped Thunder's whole dive right there. Regardless, that's one orb lit at the 2755 mark for Thunder.
I'm really digging Thunderclaude's expressions every time something goes well. There's a nice little nod, yes, that's exactly how that was supposed to go. So yeah, he's going back in though for this grind. This does not surprise me really. I think early levels are, as you said, worth more than late levels. And this is easily available, and he knows this doesn't have much HP.
Yeah, it's like, do it while you're here. Yes, you can come back with the airship at any point, but, flying takes a little bit of time. But you're right outside the door. If you've got supplies, just go for it.
So maybe, while both our runners take this grind for probably the next few minutes, what does the canoe open up, and what are some of the options that we're going to be seeing our runners selecting between after this? Of course, let's assume LordFizzlebeef goes through Earth next. What's Thunderclaude looking at?
Sure. Well, the new incentive locations we just opened up are Castle of Ordeals, the Volcano, and the Ice Cave, all incentivized in this flag set. And we are still looking for a floater to get us into the air. We could still potentially see one or two more fetch quests. Yeah, Crown is out there and Herb is out there. None of the other fetch quests can be turned in yet, though. So yeah, it's probably a quick dip down to Ordeals just because it's a lower commitment move than going into the river system to go to Volcano and Ice. But at the same time, Volcano and Ice is density, so it's really probably runner preference at that point. You don't have warp, so you don't have the means to speed up Ordeals and Ice as much as they possibly could.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, no, that's pretty good. So that all makes sense, and we'll have to see what they decide. You kind of mentioned your small preference, but I wouldn't be surprised to see the runners really making any play, although I do think it leans slightly towards Ordeals. LordFizzlebeef, it appears that he is out of houses, so he is heading back to Melmond, and then we will probably be seeing an Earth dive shortly.
Meanwhile, Thunder lost his support characters a little too quickly on that tile there and wasn't able to actually start doing substantial physical damage with his black belt, so he did just have to cut his losses and leave, but that's fine. He got what he came for. He got his Earth Orb and his canoe.
So we have a question from Sideswipe in chat. Do both players have the same item placement or whatever? Yes, they do both have the same item placement, so in this case the same flag set and the same seed, which means they're essentially running the same thing. However, there is quite a bit of RNG still involved in terms of, what spell order various things, whether they decide to cast, whether they decide to punch, how high those punches are. There's quite a few ranges in Final Fantasy Randomizer, so you're not going to be seeing the exact same output on both screens at all times, but they will have items in the same locations.
Fizzlebeef, by the way, just declined the slab reset of dwarves. That's not super significant, but it means that if it comes down to it later, and he still needs to check all the final remaining dungeons in order to get his progression, he might have to come back to dwarves and remember to pick up his slab.
And looks like Lord Fizzlebeef decided that he wants some more houses, keeping 2 party members up, and I'm assuming this is going to be right back into Earth. Something that is a little bit unfortunate, and this is kind of storyline from the vanilla game, is that Melman does not have a clinic, and also does not have a item shop. You can only buy swords and shields there. You cannot buy heal potions, houses, and you cannot revive anyone as the vampire destroyed it. So that is why both runners walking all the ways back to either Elfland or Canaria.
Yep. Thunder, big shopping trip here in Elfland. He got gold bracelets for everyone, which they were very expensive, but he can afford it all now. He's getting Ice 3 on both of his black mages who can cast it, and he's stocked up on cabins, so he's loaded for the next time he wants to camp out somewhere or just go adventuring.
It looks like Lord Fizzlebeef is now coming into Earthcave on a power cycle, which means he will be getting the same encounters on the way out each time, versus the one time that he wiped, I believe it was on a soft reset. So just something to keep in mind, that he's making sure that this grind is safe on the way out. Meanwhile, Thunderclaude is, following what you kind of expected going into Ordeals. It is slightly slower without warp, but, most of the reasonable warp slots they've already checked, so it's unlikely that they're going to have it before this anyway. So going to dive right in, and this is, as you said, a lower commitment check than navigating the river systems to Volcano or Ice Cave.
And Fizzlebeef's black belt is starting to really punch hard, so it's one-shotting the Gersharks and Big Eyes, and he's setting up his black mage to die, so it's looking like he really wants to grind solo and just stack up into the 30s and 40s. Thunderclaude is navigating the shuffled Castle Ordeals pillar maze, which makes it so that it's not the vanilla pattern of just go to the lowest pillar in every room.
So normally during this sequence we will speak about how the warp spell can help out quite a bit, but unfortunately it can't. But that was a pretty friendly pillar maze, I would say. That was a 3rd pillar, but both the missing ones didn't really take you back all that far. Lord Fizzlebeef is suffering a little bit for not having that bonus gold bracelet. That was a really savvy play, I would say, on Thundercloude's part to pick that up early to really boost that black belt's defense. Even though, Lord Fizzlebeef is approaching it, he still hasn't even overpassed what just that gold bracelet would provide, never mind the gold bracelet plus the cap +5.
Yeah, it looks like, so some of the time he's not one-shotting the Gersharks yet, despite being almost 30, well he's 30 now. As long as he doesn't get, say, ambushed by a pack of 4, he probably shouldn't die in a given fight, but it could be close if he doesn't get favorable turn order and there are 3 or 4 of them.
It also just slows down the grind quite a bit, right? Every single time he gets punched, that's time he has to spend menuing heal pots, which is important to talk about. Meanwhile, Thunderclaude has picked up a very important item in the Castle of Ordeals. Did you see what that was, Cheesinator?
I did not.
Oh, he picked up a ribbon. So why is that important?
Ribbon is a piece of headgear that gives the character it's equipped to resistance to all the 8 element types in the game. That means the lowest possible chance to land for all one-hit kill spells, as well as reducing by half the base damage and not allowing increases in damage otherwise on elemental damaging spells. So
very, very nice pickup, and it will really increase the survivability of these black mages. Also, if these runners decide not to take their black belts to, the 40s, if they instead decide to go a little bit lower, that ribbon will provide very nice late game safety against chaos, as combined with the cap they can't wear the cap because they have the ribbon, but combined with the gold bracelet, they will actually have pretty good defense to the point where you're not sacrificing a ton of absorb in exchange for that additional safety.
So some important milestones here. Thunderclaude got a chime out of Ordeals. That signifies that it's required, which probably means Fizzlebeef will also not only end up there, but check all the chests, unless he comes through there just blazing, and it's his last dungeon, and he's 42, and he doesn't care about ribbons. So you'll likely see that ribbon go both ways. Fizzlebeef, in his grind progression, he has gotten to level 32, which means 8 hits for the black belt. So now he's one-shotting all of the enemies without fail every time here.
And yeah, and as he gets higher level, the grind becomes safer and safer, right? I think those levels prior to 32 were definitely FizzleBeef's most dangerous levels to wipe on this grind. I'm not going to say anything about the walkout, although I believe he's counted it, but you know,
I mean, on the walkout, everything's gonna run away. So he's fine.
yeah. Yeah, so, you know, this is looking good for LordFizzlebeef. The question is, will this early grind let him, you know, barrel through the rest of the seed? As Thunderclaude will have to take a break at some point, most likely to take a grind as well.
Yes, exactly. FizzleBeef is doing now what Thunderclaude will do later. But what Thunderclaude is doing right now is exploring. He's on his way into the volcano. This is also a Fiend dungeon and also an incentive. It's got a pile of treasure chests here in the top floor, as well as a couple of other grind tiles. He's not even actually, he's so happy with the Gershark Big Eye tile, he's going to say, I'm not going to bother with these right now, I'll go back to that one I need to grind, because he did just skip out on the Vanilla Fire tile.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, oftentimes you can tell more about a runner's intention by what they don't do rather than what they do. And by him deciding A, not to open up the Volcano Armory chests, and B, not deciding to check the spike tiles, that means A, he's probably decided that Gershark Big Eye tile is good enough, and B, he's probably not opening very many more chests for the rest of this seed, as he has the ribbon. Really, the only major prize he'd be looking for is a second ribbon for his second Black Mage would be like a nice to have, and the defense sword I think would be a very something that would help secure his late game as well.
Thunderclaude's making very judicious checks here, just a few on the 4th floor of the volcano. The ones that require the fewest steps out of the way that would add to the encounter table, and he clearly knows the encounter table well enough to trust that he was not going to get a fight on the way down here, because he made it to the bottom and he had 1 HP across the board, so his characters could have just instantly wiped.
Yeah. Both these runners, you know, just really showing their class through careful encounter manipulation, excellent decision making, as well as, you know, knowing, you know, how to get through various stages of the game, knowing where they are and what their strengths are. So, you know, choosing slightly different paths, but I think both are equally valid, and we'll have to see who comes out at the end. Something that we like to say in this community is that you really don't know who's ahead until you're diving Temple of Fiends Revisit, and even then you don't know who's ahead until Chaos is defeated, as you never know what quite awaits you in there. So that's definitely going to hold true for this seed between these two runners.
Now, I'm actually just slightly concerned here for this, unless Thunderclaude takes any more levels on this tile, this upcoming carry fight. He did just tick over to 21 on his black belt, which is an important breakpoint, but the bosses have clamped HP, so this carry could have up to 1200. Carry has notoriously high MDEF, which means the nukes might roll low, so then if carry happens to follow up, you know, a thunder with a damage poison or something, we could actually be looking at a potential wipe scenario. So cross your fingers, wish the best. He's in a pretty good spot, but it's not a lock.
And here we go. Carry coming out, going with the pretty expected swing nuke. Speed and power strats, offense all the way. Carry taking a fairly low roll there and punching, you know, reasonably hard. That's scary enough, but remember, Thunderclaude really prepared well in terms of physical absorb on all of his characters, so even those black mages probably will not get one hit. Sleep is not necessarily the best thing, but once again, those nukes are the primary damage leaders, and only taking one turn, that's not a big deal. Another nuke comes out. There was one high roll there, which is exactly what Thunderclaude wanted to see. Nuke comes out. Roll comes out for 270 damage. There goes Carry 1. Thunderclaude has lit his second orb at the 39-minute mark. Very nice by Thunderclaude. Meanwhile, LordFizzlebeef has a 42 black belt. Will that be enough, though, for him to catch up on the exploration lead? That's what we're going to have to see. And I think the big telling point here is when Thunderclaude decides to stop and grind, because after he's done his grind, that's really where we're going to see where these two runners are in comparison to each other.
Yeah, this is that classic sort of watching FFR dichotomy, especially when you've got a black belt draft. It's easy to say, oh, this runner is, you know, an orb ahead, 2 orbs ahead, a dungeon ahead, whatever. But FizzleBeef is just going to be like a steamroller, or just like the Indiana Jones boulder making his way down the Earth Cave.
Yeah, this is going to be a very different Earth Dive than what we saw Thunderclaude do. There is still a very, very small chance that LordFizzlebeef takes a wipe here to some insta-deaths, but it's, you know, very, very unlikely. The worst case probably is that, you know, all his characters die except for his one black belt, and then he just has to go through like unrunnables quite slowly without those AoE clears.
Yeah, but as you see, Cobra's running away. I'm certain that at 40, he's in his low 40s. At that point, that wolves will also be auto running away. Arachnids auto run away. I don't know about ogres, like green ogres per se. Well, like, yeah, very little in this cave is going to resist his morale.
And he will be happy to see the rod here for sure. I mean, I think with this party, that rod is like exactly what you want to see at the bottom of here, so you only had to single dip this. That ribbon, putting in some serious work, but getting out of this ice cave is going to be a little bit scary with just a single Black Mage. Newt coming out though, 384, 115, 312. Thunderclaude down to just a single Black Mage, and remember, because without Warp, he hasn't even been able to check that chest. Nice adjustment into Brack there instead of Nuke, but well, he's going to keep trying this, and this is doable with a Nuke casting Black Mage with a ribbon. But
yeah,
not,
it's an information
not easy.
dive. That Black Mage has about 50-50 to run, so anything that you don't want to AoE down or can't AoE down, you can try to run from. I think he'll probably make it all the way to the tile and get the information he needs about whether this is required or not. So I'm not super worried. But it's kind of funny and sad to see, like, oh, we're done with Earth Cave, we're done with Green Ogres, and then they appear on the ice spike tile that you're forced to go through twice.
I will point out, though, that I've said this a few times, but I think it's really, really important, especially if you're a newer runner in the community, to just see how valuable both runners preparing for these various things properly. It took them just a little bit of extra time, but in this case, the gold bracelet really making a huge difference on this Black Mage's survivability to punches. Also, LordFizzlebeef getting enough heal pots to make sure that his Black belt could complete that grind all the ways to 42. These little things can really make a big difference, as well as bringing houses prior to diving Earth Cave, knowing that they're going to want to most likely replenish their nuke charges. So, just these little things that are hard to notice as the seed's going on, I did want to just draw a little bit of attention to. And here we go. The spike tile gets a nice ambush.
It's the safe ogres. Nice. And it's an herb, so he doesn't actually know if it's required yet, so he's got to make it out of here, and if he doesn't, he might just give up ice for the time being and see if maybe his go mode is in another dungeon. We're currently looking for the Oxsail and the key. And yes. The floater. We need to get in the air first, and then eventually the Oxsail and key.
Yeah, we do know at this point that the crown or the herb will turn eventually into the floater. It's just a matter of when. There may be additional... Actually, no, there's no additional checks that one of them will turn into the floater, as we've already gone through the remainder of our fetch quests.
I guess there's no world where you like wipe here and you're like, oh, I need to go turn in the crown, and maybe the crown's the floater, and I can just not go back into ice. Like, you're here at ice, and if you reset, you would have all your characters back up anyways. But that's a pointless hypothetical because he made it out. So we're fine.
Oh, my apologies. Chad Burt is correctly pointing out, once again, Tracker keeping us honest, there is one more kind of minor fetch quest of key to Canaria locked. But once again, that won't be a big deal, as they're most likely going to be in the Inner Sea anyways, or close to it.
Yeah. Blink and you miss it. LordFizzlebeef has just done away with the game's second mini-boss, I guess, in the form of the... Is it... Actually, do you call Garland a boss or a mini-boss? Well, regardless. He just did away with the vampire. It was very, very easy.
Yeah, I think I would consider Garland, Pirates, Vampire all mini-bosses.
Okay, fair. So that's like the fourth, then. Garland, Pirates, Astos.
Yep.
Vampire, yeah.
LordFizzlebeef, given that kind of classic Rod and Earth reaction, not such a big deal in this particular seed. It can be very trolly in other seeds, but he will be very happy to find his canoe right now. And there we go. Gives a little, okay. And we will have to see how many more chests he opens, as I believe that's what he's now considering. Like, do I want to keep opening boxes here on Earth? We have a question in chat from Falconic. Thank you, Falconic, for helping organize the co-op tournament this summer. How many loose are in this flag set? So there was one guaranteed loose canoe, and now there's two dud locations. So they did a little bit of magic with the flag sets, like they did with the guaranteed loose canal in the spring tournament. So we are dealing with one loose canoe, and then after that, two dud locations.
Yep. And if you're not running a thief, 3 dud locations.
Yeah. No, one of the dud locations is just worth a bunch of cash. It's a cash ticket redeemable at the sword shop.
Also, what's nice about the crown and herb specifically being the 2 fetch quests that came out of Ice and Volcano is that, like, it's so easy to just turn them in together. The way Thunderclaude has routed this, he's gone to the South Dock at Elfland. Is he not going to just walk up to Astos from here?
I think he's anticipating a potential key play, which I don't mind. At this point, we're not guaranteed it to be the key, but, it's either the floater or the key. So
yeah, that's true. Still, either way, like, it was pretty convenient routing, especially if he'd wanted to just stay on land. But he's going to use that river dock there to get a slightly easier way in here. And he got the floater, so he can just sail west from here, I'm pretty sure. Actually, what's faster? Do you tuck into the inner sea from here?
I think it's probably slightly faster
No,
to go
you
west.
go west.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Blinken, you missed it though, and Lich is down. LordFizzlebeef has lit his first orb at the 45-minute mark, but once again, keep in mind, LordFizzlebeef is touting a level 42 black belt, and that is not something that should be ignored at this point. So LordFizzlebeef essentially 2 full dungeons behind, plus a 1 mini dungeon, 1 full dungeon, and a few fetch. No, 3, 2 mini dungeons, 1 major dungeon, and a couple fetch quests. But we'll have to see if that makes the difference in how long it takes Thunderclaude to do his grind, or if he even chooses to do 1 to 42, or if he is content to go to a 32 black belt instead. That would surprise me a little bit, but that is an option.
Yeah, I think that would depend heavily on gear. If you find defense, because you know white shirt is going to be available, so if you find defense, that changes the calculation by a lot. A 32 can get there much more capably with defense sword than without.
Yeah, I think one consideration though with the defense sword is that at that point you're likely to have to run into like a solo black belt scenario, because if you take a long time with defensive strats on these fights, your black belts are your black mages are probably just going to die to something. They're very frail, have very limited HP. Even with a ribbon, their survivability isn't great, and even with the higher absorb that they have, those defensive strats are still going to be slightly dangerous, as you very easily could be staring down solo chaos or a solo kraken in chaos with just a single black belt up.
So the bottle turn-in was our katana. No need for that today. We're actually far beyond anything we would need to purchase, given that the armor has been bought, the shop item's been bought, so truly we don't even need the money for the katana.
And Thunderclaude about to give us our first slab turn-in check. The key or the tail is going to be here, I believe. And it is the key, and that is go mode.
Yeah, that's really, really good. So let's go mode at 47 minutes. Thunderclaude's got 2 more orbs to knock out, and of course a grind to do. So his current level, it looks to be in the low 20s.
I believe so, yeah.
Yes. So I guess you could... I'm not going to pretend to know his strategy, right? We were just discussing the possibilities, but you could like try and get your way up into the 30s, go to Sea Shrine, go to War Mech, and then like see where you land after that, because you might get yourself up all the way to close to 42 after the experience you get from the required War Mech.
I did want to point out actually something that's kind of important at this point. Oh, okay. Well, quickly, LordFizzlebeef is opening chests in Ordeal, so he is going to pick up the ribbon. But LordFizzlebeef reset out of the TNT that turned into the slab, which means I think it's more likely that he's going to do Waterfall, which leads to a dead location, and that's just going to be a straight time loss for LordFizzlebeef as opposed to Thunder. So that's definitely something to keep an eye out.
Yeah, given that he'll have Oxial already, Oxial is usually the thing that you kind of, okay, if I've got this, I can go to Waterfall Sea area, and it'll be more efficient because I'll still be able to, full clear not full clear, but get the orb that's next to Waterfall.
Thunderclaude is making a decision, though, that he does want to hunt down the white shirt, which is our last incentive item, and it is either going to be the key locked or Waterfall. So if Thunderclaude decides to go to Waterfall anyways, for the white shirt, if it's not here in Canaria, that kind of flips it back on its head. So, just little developing storylines about what you can and cannot skip, or what you choose to skip and what you choose not to skip.
Yeah, I'm into this. Frankly, the most important thing that second black belt could be doing, if it makes it into any of the later Fiend fights without just dying randomly, it's going to be a white shirt holder, or white shirt caster, rather.
Okay, so Thunderclaude doing the mental calculus, determining that the white shirt is indeed in Waterfall. So we'll have to see if he decides to go back there, but this is the time. It is grind time. He has all the key items, so a little bit of bonus key item experience, looking about 30%-ish. Yeah, somewhere around there, 30 or 35% more bonus experience than LordFizzlebeef. But we will have to see how much ground LordFizzlebeef can make up while he goes and clears out the rest of these locations.
Yeah. Now he's got to get his black belt to the point where it's consistently one-shotting things. So he's kind of at that stage LordFizzlebeef was, 30 minutes ago or whatever. He's in the low 20s and still doesn't have a fully self-sustaining black belt. Then once he does, he can switch the order of his party around, unequip the black mage, and get on his way. And honestly, this whole grind is going to take like 6-7 minutes maybe or something to get up to 42. Like, this is not going to be that much time committed. So can Fizzlebeef do ice, volcano, those other like assorted fetch quests and stuff from the floater in the time here it takes Thunder to grind? I think this means Thunder is still ahead by a couple minutes.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. I think Lord Fizzlebeef has better overall party levels. That's maybe the one advantage that he has going for him, even after this grind is completed. I know from watching Thunderclaude in a number of races, he tends to keep his other party members very low. We're talking like early to mid 20s, and none of them are going to have any HP to survive even a single nuke, most likely. So Lord Fizzlebeef might actually have a chance. So that is something to keep an eye on. But I think Thunderclaude has very much a plan, very much a path to victory at this point, and Lord Fizzlebeef is going to need something to go his way to some extent in order for him to catch up this time loss.
Yeah, I mean, you usually consider a 40 plus, 42 plus black belt through Topher on scaling around this level to be a lock, like you're not going to wipe, but there are scenarios where it's just you get overwhelmed, all your tertiary characters die, you can't slog through the water floor and the air floor with the random encounters, or you get to chaos and the slow 2 lands because slow 2, you actually never get to a point on a black belt where you resist that fully, and it's non-elemental, so the ribbon doesn't stop it.
I mean, I think even something as simple as just first turn nuke on Lich will make this Temple of Fiends Revisited quite dangerous for these runners if they don't get turn order. Because if your entire party goes down and you have to solo black belt your way through the rest of it with nothing but like a white shirt potential, that is definitely not free, even with a 42 black belt at this scaling.
All right, time to see if Thunderclaude's black belt is ready to take on Sharks by itself. Yeah, that was a pretty good hit. All right, he should be fine.
And we'll just have to quickly check what his heal pot count is as well, as that's going to be something that's important. As he's
wow, that's a spooky fight to take.
Yeah, that could have gone wrong. That definitely could have gone wrong. But he is approaching that critical 32 breakpoint where it's wow again.
Yeah, the 220. I mean, anyways, people have tolerance of risk. We've actually already seen throughout this run that Thunderclaude has a pretty high tolerance for risk, given the things that he did at lower levels than Fizzlebeef. So, it's part of his nature. He's got to go fast.
Yeah, he's got plenty of heal pots in the 80s there. So, one thing I do want to point out is Lord Fizzlebeef's boat is not parked in the best of locations here to do these 2 fetch quests. He was really banking on a floater being here, as he's parked at the northern dock into the river systems. So he's going to have quite a sail to do in order to turn these fetch quests in. It's not the end of the world, but just something to point out, as he's going to have to sail all the ways back from Volcano, all the ways back up to that northern dock, and then sail all the ways around.
Either way, he's out. He's got his herb. He had actually a substantially faster ice cave for a variety of reasons. One is that he didn't lose 3 of his party members to Bane. He actually didn't even see a green ogre the second time he went through that drop-down tile.
And yeah, the 42 black belt, of course, doing some serious work. And these are those time saves that we talk about in terms of, when we're saying key item experience is important, but, you get time saves for grinding early. Well, that's one of them when things start running away and you can get through encounters just a little bit quicker. So Lord Fizzlebeef making the logical play here, going to be going into the fire dungeon, the Garugu Volcano.
The Fire Kano.
Yeah, the Fire Kano, there we go. And we shall be seeing, where he ends up once Thunderclaude finishes this grind, which is not that far away.
Yeah, Thunder is getting just gobs of experience every round, like 15k, 19k there. I don't even know if that was a full screen, but yeah, I estimated at the 50-minute mark it would take him 6 or 7 minutes. He might even beat that by a minute.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll be interested to see if he takes this all the way to 42, if he's going to stop at 40. Like, it's either this fight or maybe it's either this one or 1 or 2 more. Because he could just stop at 40 for the War Mech to give him the rest. Something else that is different is that we do have a required War Mech before Tiamat. So that is just, a boatload of experience just waiting to be picked up later.
Fizzlebeef is in, because probably he got that ribbon, he is in no chests mode. Not even, I don't care about second ribbon, I don't care about defense, I don't care about power gauntlet, I don't care about anything. Just whizzes past every chest in Volcano, including the ones that don't take any step commitment, but do take time to check.
Mhm. Pointing out in chat that I want to listen to whatever Thunderclaude is listening to. I don't know if Thunderclaude is listening to music or if he's just rocking out to how well this grind is going.
He's just vibing. That's
Yeah.
the 2020 mood, is just vibing.
Okay, 41. That's it. He's done. That will hit 42 on Warmac for sure.
He's listening to Fleetwood Mac. That's the ultimate vibe music.
And yeah, this is gonna be almost certainly waterfall play. Wow. It is evidently late at night. This is definitely going to be a C play. Will he check waterfall for white shirt? I doubt it, but it's not within, outside the realm of
Yeah,
possibility.
I guess if I'm Thunder here, actually, I go the other way. I go to Sky first because if Sky has the white shirt, you guarantee you don't need to even think about waterfall when you're over here, right?
Yeah, I really like that. It also gives you a little bit more opportunity for your characters to potentially get a few more levels on Warmac, making them a little bit more likely to survive C. Although at the same time, maybe getting the levels in C makes them more likely to survive Sky.
Fizzlebeef is taking on Carry 1 here. It's going to be an even easier, faster fight, and indeed Carry 1 is down, so he ties up the orb score with Thunderclaude at the 56-minute mark.
So at this point, Lord Fizzlebeef is essentially a slab turn-in, well, a TNT turn-in, a crown turn-in, an herb turn-in, and then eventually a slab turn-in behind Thunderclaude. Which is substantial, but definitely not insurmountable. We're talking minutes, not, 10, 15 minutes.
So interesting here, we have a tail, and Warp is promotion locked here at Onrak, whatever this town is called. So the last possible use of it would be like, I'm going to go promote, I'm going to get Warp just so I can go into the waterfall and warp back out. But no, that's not going to happen. Anyways, Warp was too late to be relevant.
Okay. Lord Fizzlebeef doing the inner C version of the routing. So his ship is parked permanently. He knows that the floater is going to be one of these turn-ins, but he's going to be walking quite a bit, and there are a number more encounters by walking rather than by sea, so this is going to be a slightly slower turn-in.
Yeah, still, I don't mind it, right?
Yeah.
You've got tents, and you know the encounter table really well at this point. You've already been doing so much overworld traversal. So he'll be in and out of here pretty quickly.
It's just one burn and then a very long run, so it's pretty nice to navigate, to be honest.
Also, it's his turn for gold bracelets.
Yep.
He's just clearing out his inventory. He was actually using silver -5s before. Oh my! Wow. Anyways, big upgrade time.
If Lord Fizzlebeef ever makes fun of someone for equipping cloth armor ever again, we're gonna have to give him a hard time for these silver bracelets -5. Because silver bracelets -5 are like 5 absorb, aren't they?
Yeah, speaking of a hard time, Thunderclaude just lost a Black Mage here in Sea Shrine. So one of the things I noted towards the beginning of the seed is that enemy stats are 100 to 200%. So their hits are vanilla or rolling up. Their damage is vanilla or rolling up. Lobster is one of the most deadly enemies in the whole game with stats that can move upwards like that. Lobsters can absolutely ruin your day.
So Thunderclaude, once again, about to light his third orbit under the 1 hour mark. This is going to be a very quick seed if Temple of Fiends Revisited goes his way. Lord Fizzlebeef, not looking like there's a ton of places for him to make time. I think he's going to have to hope that the Temple of Fiends Revisited gives Thunderclaude a tough time.
Yeah, and ultimately, like, they had that little split early where Fizzlebeef decides to grind and Thunderclaude decides to dive and so on. But Fizzlebeef didn't have quite the perfect grind. Of course, he lost some levels and he left Earth and came back, this and that. Whereas Thunderclaude did his grind like all in one chunk. And additionally, he had some other efficiencies to gain time along the way. And by the way, he just did 1600 damage to Kraken.
Yep, so Kraken 1, gone, Water Orb lit. Black Belt revived for what seems like the 4th time or 5th time this seed, as that one has not had very much luck staying alive, and Thunderclaude just has Sky Palace standing between him and his and the Temple of Fiends Revisited, the final dungeon of this run.
Yeah, so the vulnerability on those black mages, he's got his big black belt in the front row in the first slot, and the black mages are in the third and fourth slot. The targeting in this game works such that the that front slot will be targeted half the time, and each of the back two slots an eighth of the time. Sorry, if there are 4 party members, but the second party member being dead, it actually shifts to where the front is 2/3 of the time, and the back two are a sixth each. So they're pretty safe on average, but of course, when many attacks happen throughout a fight, like things are going to go to the back row. So whether it's a lobster or it's Kraken or something, like those black mages have math in their favor, but not that much in their favor.
LordFizzlebeef, making a little bit of an interesting play here, is deciding to promote. Of course, we haven't talked this broadcast actually, but promotion is always an interesting decision with the black belts, as they do get less MDef per level after promotion. So you actually want to delay promotion with black belts, as opposed to when you run non-black belt comps, in which case there's no downside to promoting early. LordFizzlebeef, I think, knows that Temper is promotion locked, most likely. So I think that's probably why he's promoting before he goes to Gaia and Onrak. However, this is just even more time that he's taking that Thunderclaude is not.
Yeah, I think Temper, I don't know, with Fast and a 42 black belt on this scaling, like Temper is pretty well obviated. If we were trying to go for any other configuration, lower level black belt, Fast was level 8, something like that, there would have been a lot of different reasons to promote, but I can't really see it here. So yeah, I'm going to say that's probably just like a 60 to 90 second time loss for Fizzle.
LordFizzlebeef is making the right play here. Of course, saying hello to the Herrador 3 times, not once, not twice, but 3 times, but also turning in his TNT, remembering to go get the slab, and that is going to be something that's important, as I was hoping that he would do this before he, potentially dove Waterfall.
Yep, and Thunderclaude's going to give us, he's on the floor, so he's going to show us the 50-50 of whether the white shirt is here or Waterfall in just a second. And the black belt just ticked over to 42 for him as well.
And here we... Oh, nope. We're going to wait a little bit longer. Slime's got to take some time casting Dark. Looks like LordFizzlebeef is about to go turn in. Yeah, so the bottle turn in will come first. I assume the slab will come next. The exact same route that Thunderclaude took. He is indeed picking up those tempers, and it does look like the white shirt is in Waterfall. So Thunderclaude, moving on. Too bad. I'm still going to go crush this Temple of Fiends Revisited with my overpowered black belt.
Yeah, there's little standing in their way aside from those, big, ugly, like immediate first turn nuke type fiends. Which of course could be this Warmech, right? One of the things we do in the randomizer is that Warmech and the 4 Refight Fiends and Temple of Fiends Revisited and Chaos have all their skills and spells mixed amongst each other, not the other enemies in the game. So there are 3 nukes in there, 4 nuclears, Swirl and Tornado. Those are the non-elemental AoEs we usually talk about.
And then the big elemental one will be Inferno, which would be quite terrifying for the non-ribbon wearing Black Mage, to the point of almost certainly taking it out, but not the end of the world, I think, for Thunderclaud's party.
And Warmech only did 100 damage there, 103 damage to that black belt, and went down in 1 turn, so good night, Warmech. Hello, experience. We got a 32 Black Mage and a 24 Black Mage, not bad.
Yeah, not bad at all, and LordFizzlebeef going to get that key, and with that, LordFizzlebeef has entered go mode at the 1 hour and 3 minute mark, but look out, Thunderclaude onto Tiamat with getting nuke here. Getting his nuke, getting his fast out. This is not going to be a very long fight here, as his black belt goes out, 16 punches, 800 plus damage, and down goes Tiamat. And with that, at the 1 hour and 4 minute mark, Thunderclaude has 4 orbs lit, and not much standing between him and the Temple of Fiends Revisited, if anything.
He's got a 44 black belt. Once you get into the mid-high 40s, you get close to 900 HP. You max out at either 49 or 50 at 999. You've got just a monstrous crit rate. You've got 2 damage or 2 attack power per level added on, and that's applied to each of your hits, and you're doing 10 hits, and then with the damage formulas, it's gone up exponentially from, say, the 20s to the point where you're dealing thousands instead of hundreds.
So as we just pass over the 1 hour minute mark, if you just tuned in or you tuned in a little while ago, you were watching the SpeedGaming Live 2020 Final Fantasy Randomizer bracket stage. This is the round of 16, LordFizzlebeef versus Thunderclaude. Thunderclaude, a number 1 seed coming out of the pods versus LordFizzlebeef, number 2, but both of them veteran, excellent players. My name is Jat. I'm joined here in the booth on Cheesenator for Final Fantasy Randomizer After Dark, the PG-13 edition. And we are about to see our first dive of the Temple of Fiends Revisited after stocking up on some heal potions from Thunderclaude, while LordFizzlebeef 2 Orbs to Light. So we're essentially pretty close to 1 Topher wipe apart. Thunderclaude, if he takes an unfortunate death to Kraken, Tia, or Chaos, could give LordFizzlebeef the chance that he needs to catch up, but this is definitely Thundercloude's race to lose.
Yeah, the Temple of Fiends has like a 6 to maybe 11 minute span of like how long is it going to take based on what you're going in with. 6 minutes, that's the ultra fast dives. That's like 42 black belt, fully prepared team comp with some safeties like life 2 and the ability to guarantee that you can get through solo and all this. Whereas you can have really slow, grindy, but still doable Temple of Fiends when you've got like a 23 Knight and Rainbow Mages or something. But Thunderclaude's much more on the fast side of that, so I'm expecting him to be, if he doesn't wipe to some monstrous thing, be done probably by 112.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Fast 42 black belt, that's the kind of the recipe for that 5-6 minute Topher. But LordFizzlebeef about to take on this Warmech. We saw it didn't put up much of a threat to Thunderclaude. We'll have to see if LordFizzlebeef gets treated differently.
He gets good turn order on the fast, and that 11-21, so not quite enough. A Bane first turn from Warmech takes out nobody. Okay, that's convenient. But this was not a 1 round from Fizzlebeef like it was for Thunderclaude. And a nuke. Wow, so Warmech just loaded up on a bunch of the spookiest stuff. But it doesn't matter, and the only person that it killed was his least relevant character, so everyone else got experience. That's a 45 black belt for Fizzlebeef.
And that is, that was a nice golf clap, LordFizzlebeef. And you know what? That golf clap was genuine. He is very happy to see Warmech casting nuke, because that is something that he does not have to deal with later. As Cheesenator explained previously, that all the spells are shared on the late game fiends. Tiamat, not long for this world. This punch should do it. And there we go, LordFizzlebeef has lit his 3rd orb, while Thunderclaude 1 step away from his first Fiend refight. Here we go, Lich 2, swipe. Yep, fight, nuke, nuke. 2nd black belt doing nothing, 1 punch man, 10 hits, 700 damage. Lich 2 is down, and we are on to the next Fiend, Carry 2.
Yeah, it's very rare that you see Lich 2 take more than 1 round if you've got a 42 plus black belt. Lich doesn't have much defense to begin with, so there's nothing resisting the massive punches, even the non-critical punches.
Yeah, you're just hoping that it doesn't get turn order on you. That's really the only scary thing. Thorhammer coming out, Carry punching, pretty decent damage, but once again, that black belt has plenty of absorb and lots of HP. 10 hits, 830, Carry still up. Once again, we do have 100 to 200% scaling instead of 100 to 150, so these fiends can roll quite a bit higher. Carry not going to be long for this world though. 20 hits, good night, Carry 2, and Thunderclaude is through to his 2nd fiend already, and this is looking like a very fast Temple of Fiends Revisited so far.
Yeah, just a blistering pace. He's already onto the water floor. We got a thematic crossover here with Thunderclaude on the water floor. Temple Fiends are visited while LordFizzlebeef is in the Sea Shrine. Both of them can have lobsters and waters. And Thunderclaude gets really good turn order there. First initiative run at Fizzlebeef got the same thing. First initiative run there. They're just blazing through the remainder of this seed.
Thunderclaude putting out some sacrificial ones, and I like that last minute adjustment, making sure his higher HP black belt is in the back. That one has much higher chance of surviving non-elemental spell like a turn 1 nuke here. And that black belt does survive. Those extra levels really paying off there, and this is the most important fast caster. That black belt going down there does make the rest of this dive much scarier, but as long as that single black belt is alive and can cast fast twice more, this is looking very, very good for Thunderclaude.
And I know it's late, but I'm pretty sure every time you just said black belt there, you meant to say black mage.
Yes.
But I'll forgive you this one time. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna have the black belt in front and the black mage in back. So 80% of the targets are gonna go towards the black belt and 20% towards the black mage if single target hits. So yeah, you're just hoping Tiamat doesn't decide to crack that black mage back there.
Yeah, with the quality of the armor though, this black mage is wearing, and his relatively high HP pool for a Black Mage. I would not be surprised at all, though, if the Black Mage could even tank a single punch. That nuke, though, that did absolutely have a chance of taking out that Black Mage, and that could have made a big difference, but it luckily rolled low instead of rolling 400 HP on that Black Mage. And Lord Fizzlebeef threw Kraken. So yeah, as kind of anticipated, if Thunderclaude takes a wipe here, Lord Fizzlebeef is going to be breathing down his neck, maybe 5 minutes behind at this point.
Yeah, that would be shockingly close with a wipe, but I mean, with 2 of the nukes gone already, we would need to see, first of all, the 3rd nuke, and then, again, things like the slow 2. There's the nuclear, but nuclear's ceiling is 320, so actually the Black Mage was never going to get one-shot by that. But Tiamat was absolutely one-shot by that fasted Black Belt.
And here we go, enough heal pots. That buying up of heal pots with no healing available in this party, definitely nice, as he's down to, the teens in heal pots there. No more encounters, though. Onto the Chaos floor. Going to use those last heal pots. Going to transfer that ribbon.
All right, best of 1, single elimination tournament. Whoever advances goes into the money tier of the brackets, the top 8. Thunderclaude's about to pull Chaos. Jat, take it away.
Here we go. Last minute adjustments, making it relatively more likely for the Black Mage to get hit, but not as high as possible. Really wants to get off this first turn fast. Watch for turn order. Perfect turn order. Thunderclaude fast goes off. Swing comes out. Chaos taking 18 hits, 1200 damage. This Chaos is not long for the world. Maximum HP is 4000, so Chaos at most only has 2 more turns probably. 15 hits, a little bit less there. Just under 2000 damage done. Nuke coming out, that's going to push it over 2000, up to 2200 damage or so. Nuke comes out. Almost a min row, 106, but that black belt, that is not, that's pretty, not too great, but still doing okay. Chaos has done nothing so far. Swing comes out, big hit, 17 hits, 614, and that is GG's. Thunderclaude finishing in first place with an official race time of 1 hour, 11 minutes, and 43 seconds. So that is 2 blazing fast seeds to end up this bracket stage. And interestingly enough, it was between the 2 players who are going to meet in the next round.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's Edgeworth and Thunderclaude were on the same section of the bracket, and both just consecutively finished with big black belts here on SpeedGaming Prime. We are talking to the runners about potentially interviewing. Have not heard yet back from Thunderclaude, but he will be here if he's going to interview shortly. In the meantime, Fizzlebeef is making his way through Topher. He's down already to the earth floor.
Yeah, so let's give, Lord Fizzlebeef our attention here as we wait for Thunderclaude to join us, as this unfortunately will be his last race. He's battled through some adversity. He was, of course, also our spring tournament play-in race championship and, some infamous ones. So Lord Fizzlebeef, no slouch, an excellent runner, and just really that lost grind, I think, is going to be something that he looks back on as, something that really cost him here.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's not a lot you can do about that, but we were just maybe joined by someone in Discord. I heard a beep that chat would not have heard.
Yeah, so
Thunder, are you there?
No, we're not quite joined by anyone quite yet, so we're just going to continue watching Lord Fizzlebeef finish things off here.
Great.
Yeah, but we'll set to see. We're still waiting to hear back from our runners if they will join for an interview. Lord Fizzlebeef, though, about to take on his Fiend to carry. She didn't do too much the first time around, but we'll have to see. Nuke casting Nuke, very thematic, as would be expected. 9 hits. Holy smokes, 1400 damage. Yeah. And Thunderclaude joining us in chat, so I will send him a link shortly. And it looks like
I just did. I think he's good.
Awesome. So we will be joined by Thunderclaude shortly on that, really, really well executed race. And yeah, we are joined in the booth by Thunderclaude, but Lord Fizzlebeef is going to take on Kraken, who, didn't seem to do too much. So we'll quickly call this and then we'll hand it over to Thunder. Temper coming out, Kraken slapping, but Slap takes that no problem. Fast, comes out critically before he swings, 13 hits, 1800 damage. Down goes Kraken. GG's Thunder. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Yeah, GG Thunder. Also, for Fizzlebeef there, crucially, he did not get nuked, so he's actually going to go into Tiamat 2 with his full party alive. Yeah, Thunder. So this seed was basically 2 halves. There was the half where you don't have levels, and so you wipe an earth and so on and so on. And there's the second half where you just snowball over it. So I can tell which half you probably liked better.
Yeah. The Earth Cave half of the seed was terrible because, as you saw, I had ran into Bane, Grogers, and Crack werewolves, and just a whole bunch of nasty things that were just killing me left and right. But I kind of hoped and thought that Lord Fizzlebeef would see the same thing, because it was a little bit common to see at least one of those. And so I wasn't too worried when I only took, 2 wipes and had to dive for a third time.
And then you also got that kind of nice surprise of the rod, which was a one-way ticket out of
Oh
Earth
my
Cave,
gosh,
ironically.
that was so good. I did not want to go back down there, and I was really, really hoping that it was going to be the rod, which did end up being. And then I was even better that the canoe was there, because I was starting to get marsh vibes, and I didn't like it.
Yeah, we'll have to see. These flags, may rear their ugly heads in the future rounds, but congratulations on your victory. Lord Fizzlebeef about to enter the Chaos Floor, so we will call, his last fight of this tournament. Cheeseinator, why don't you take Lord Fizzlebeef's victory lap here?
Sure thing. All right, so we're talking to Was Garland, is now Chaos a couple times. We're not reordering the party. We don't care. Slow 2, that's not a spell. We've got 2 fast casters. The smaller punches 6 times for an amount that I was not able to see. Temper comes out. The response from Chaos is Lit 2, which does chip damage. Our fast has landed on Slap before his first hit, crucially, so we actually get 1194 in the first round. That's a ridiculous amount of damage. This fight's going to be over in like 2 turns. We're switching to nukes on everyone else. Punch does chip damage, 78-ish. Temper comes out on Slap. Slap slaps Chaos for 1092. It's not enough. The nuke comes out from the second Black Mage. That's 154. That's decent. We probably should just slap once and wait with everyone else, but we're going for maximum firepower. So the Temper comes out on Slap. It's Nuke's turn to nuke. Nuke hits for 132 from Nuke. Punch comes out, 82 damage. And finally, Slap does it with 2560. Get out your GGs in chat for Lord Fizzlebeef.
I would say Lord Fizzlebeef punched his way out of this tournament with absolute authority. That is a huge hit. And we are joined in the booth by Lord Fizzlebeef himself. GG's Lord Fizzlebeef. That was a relatively close matchup and very, very razor edge.
Hello, yeah, I know where my mistakes were, but like half of them are hindsight. It's yeah. GG Thunder, man. You earned that. That early game, I heard mention of the Bane Grogers. There's also the Squint Ogres. I didn't see the Crack Werewolves, but I saw a lot of the Squint Ogres. Yeah.
That early Earth Cave was like half the seed, it felt like. And then, how relieved were you when you saw the rod? Because, man, I was like, I checked that last chest before the vampire. I was like, oh boy, here comes Marsh. Then I see Rod, I'm like, oh, the Droop's still alive.
I was doing like the biggest brainest calculations at that point. I'm just like, okay, so Canoe's not in Earth. That means Canoe is in Marsh. That means if Thunder went Marsh, he didn't see the grind tile, which means I might have a chance. And then Rod was there, and then Canoe was further down. It's just like, well, beans.
What tile did you see in Marsh?
I never went to Marsh. I was assuming by Murphy's Law that you had gone to Marsh and found the canoe that was there.
Yeah. No, I mean, overall, I think the routing was very, very similar. Like, the dungeon order was basically identical. There were slightly different sailing patterns. Like, Lord Fizzlebeef, you opted for the northern... were you checking northern docks? Like, I wasn't quite sure where you were going, but you ended up docking... Go ahead.
So... I knew that Northern Docks was off. However, my brain said that Northern Docks only applies to On-Rack Dock and not Mirage Dock. But as soon as I got over there, it's just like, okay, this is not the worst thing at the world, because there's the Provoke a Backdoor Dock, and that gets me to Ice Cave, which is one of the 2 places I was planning on going anyway. And I got to set up for just in case ice was garbage. It wasn't.
It was a little garbage, because that drop-down tile that you have to go through twice had those same green ogres on it, and if you hadn't done your full grind yet, you might lose 3 of your party members.
Yeah. And Thunder. I got it at 42. I was fine. Oh, was one of us not fine?
Thunder went down to a solo Black Mage, but one thing that I was commenting on a lot, and like I was really giving big kudos to Thunder for, was that he had the ribbon from Ordeals, which is just nice, but also had all those gold bracelets picked up. So even though he was down to a solo Black Mage, that was a beefy nuking Black Mage with a ribbon and like almost 45 absorb.
Yeah, when I went down to that solo Black Mage going through Ice Cave on my first round trip, I was like, I'm not too scared because of what you just said. I had the ribbon, I had like 40 absorb on it almost or so, and I was like, yeah, this could be okay. I had like 7 nuke charges or so.
So like that wasn't really a big issue. Most of the time when you get to a single Black Mage, you're like, oh man, but as I said, preparation, really paying off there. So yeah, really, really nicely done there. I think I know Lord Fizzlebeef, you kind of said that you could touch on your mistakes. I guess I'm assuming the one that stands out is just that lost grind, and even that I don't know if it was a major mistake. The only thing I noticed was that after that you always did your hard reset outside to make sure that you dodged that encounter on your way out.
That was the major mistake, because I had seen Grogers with stuff previously, I'd seen Ogres with stuff previously. It's floor 1 of Earth Cave, I'm likely to see both. Off of the hard reset, I saw neither of them, and when I went outside to use that house, I should have hard reset, but I didn't.
Yep.
And I'm really kind of kicking myself that I didn't.
Yeah, because that grind definitely cost you. I don't know if it cost you the whole 5 minutes, but it cost you a substantial portion of it.
Yeah, that was high teens to like low to mid 20s, I think, that you lost there. So
I only made it to like 21, I think.
Oh,
I
okay.
made it from like 16 to 21. It wasn't that many levels, but it was still just like the mental setback.
And I mean, when you're racing against a runner of Thunder's caliber, that's like, whew, those mistakes are going to hurt. And in this case, unfortunately, they did. So, as we're kind of talking it up, it is getting a little bit late. Cheesener, do you have any kind of final questions that you want to ask these runners before we get on to final thoughts?
Sure. We're not doing final thoughts. Okay. Like last questions that aren't final thoughts. Let's see. The seed was, all things told, relatively linear, other than the Marsh versus Earth decision, with which both of you went towards Earth. It's hard to say where Fizzlebeef would have went wrong. Like the lost time is just like little chips here and there. I think you had maybe a minute lost early that you actually made up by just turning hard right and going into Earth Cave the same time as Thunder, but hadn't been to Crescent yet. So it's like, you can't really point at stuff and say you did wrong. You just rando.
Yeah, but as Lord Fizzlebeef said, like, I really like the self-reflective nature of, I know that this is safe, so if I had hard reset, I would have been safe for sure. And, those are those little things that I think new players should really admire and, like, look at as saying, like, you know what, rando's going to rando, but there's a lot of mitigation. And Lord Fizzlebeef even correctly identified what that mitigation could have been in this particular case. So, yeah. Awesome. Well, let's get into final thoughts then. Why don't we start with our winner here tonight? Thunder, any final thoughts as you go on to face a very, very scary, also very quick runner in Edgeworth in the round of 8, but also congratulations on making it to the money rounds.
Yeah, Edge is going to be a really tough opponent. He's known in the community and known in FFR as being one of the best for the longest time, and it's going to be fun to try to get that little notch on the belt if I can take him down. But, either way, it's been a fun run, and, can only go so far. A rando's gonna rando sometimes.
These are best of one. Everything's on the line.
Moving over to, unfortunately, this will be the last time that we'll see Lord Fizzlebeef in this SpeedGaming live tournament, but I'm certain it will not be the last time we see Lord Fizzlebeef on the FFR stage. Any final thoughts on this race or kind of the tournament as a whole, Lord Fizzlebeef?
It turns out that the numbers play is usually the correct play because numbers.
That is all.
Yeah.
If you want to learn more about how to get better at Final Fantasy Randomizer, I would potentially suggest checking out our Discord. You can get involved in the Duckling Derby program, and as well in our general chat right now, Lord Fizzlebeef has been putting on a how to learn to play Final Fantasy Randomizer series, so I would definitely recommend checking that out. And with that, that's kind of been it for me. I will pass it over to Cheeseneer to wrap us up here.
Sure, thanks, Jet. Yeah, this has been a pleasure to cast. I want to give a big shout out to our tracker tonight, Chadbert, who kept us abreast of all the developments throughout the run. Thanks to everyone here who joined in the booth to give us a nice, entertaining interview wrap-up. Thanks to SpeedGaming for continuing to host our events, and thanks to the SG Live crew for throwing said event. There's a lot of people working really hard behind the scenes, coordinating all the races, getting things into the primetime slots, making smooth transitions from race to race, managing race rooms. They're doing it all. So thanks to all the organizers. We will be back here with many more games tomorrow. There's already 3 round of 8 matches scheduled for tomorrow, and indeed they all need to conclude by tomorrow because this tournament ends on Sunday. So at the very least, to tune in. The grand finals for this randomizer Final Fantasy will be on SpeedGaming, 10 Eastern, Sunday. Be there. So thanks everyone for watching this randomizer. Check out our Discord, and see you next time.